Next question, Charles Bowden had a question regarding the economy.
Thank you. I'm happy to be the next person to speak after what you said, Congressman. You know, I'd really like to support you. I really would. I've got a number of big issues with your stand on a number of things, and especially what you just said. We're talking about the deficit and the mandatory expenditures. Mandatory expenditures, you look at Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. You stated that people 55 and older would not be affected. I'll start from that. I am a disabled person, worked hard, 30 years in the sheet metal trade. I'm disabled. If I want to look at that and say yippee-yi-yay for that, for me, and to hell with my kid, my grandkids, and by the stats, our kids, my child and my grandkids are going to not be making out as well as we have. So I'm already hurting. I'm barely making ends meet. So my son and my grandkids are going to be doing less than what I am. I'm barely making it. I've heard the story going back 20 or 30 years ago where people living, and this was never meant, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid was never meant to totally subsidize anybody. We have people in this country that are hurting. We've all heard the stories that they have a decision to make between whether to have their medication and their food. They have to make a choice. We've heard the stories about people living on animal food to be able to survive. The thought of my looking at my son or my grandkids, to look at them making up less than what I am, where I'm barely surviving, is a horror show to me. You call it mandatory. Mandatory, where everybody in this room, I believe, is concerned with the deficit. We all want that to be taken care of. Why? Why is it that you vote and other people vote on the backs of the middle class and the poor people in this country that pick up for the problems that was caused on us because of deregulation and so on, and we're not talking about people on the higher end of the scale, people making over $106,000, $700,000 that do not pay into Medicare and Social Security. Why are we not looking at that? Why is it once again on the backs of the American people, the middle class and the poor, where we've already been taken advantage of as far as I'm concerned, and we're not looking at the other side of the spectrum?
So are you talking about the budget?
Being on the backs of the middle class and the poor people and eliminating the people that are on the higher spectrum of
Right, so if I hear you correctly, there's two questions. You want further analysis on my budget vote because there was a reform proposed on Medicare in the budget, and then the second question is why won't we tax people who are or increase the Medicare tax? Or
no, the tax on the higher echelon. We call it, a lot of you folks call it a extra tax. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not an extra tax. Those people, a lot of those people were given a tax decrease. A lot of you folks up there in Washington want to call it a tax increase. We're all here, Americans. We're all on the same land. We live and die the same way. Everything else in between. Why is it that the middle class and the poor are paying? In the middle class, we've got more and more millionaires and billionaires every year. I'm not looking at nailing anybody or a class war, but that's what it's getting to be. Everybody in these here United States should be paying a damn fair share.
Okay, well, I agree that in terms of fair share, I think most people would prefer to see that everyone does pay their fair share. And you know what the best way to do that? The best way to do that is? The best way to do that is to have everyone pay the same percentage. Everyone pays the same percentage. I have a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old.
And you're a wealthy man.
Well, I'm a fortunate guy. You know what? I'm a fortunate guy. I appreciate how hard I've worked to get to where I am. And you know what? And in this country, we all have worked hard. We have all sacrificed. And to me, I don't look at people with a dollar sign on their face. I look at them as an American. When I go to Washington, I think about how we can make this country a better place, not just for one class of people, but for everybody. Because everyone in this room knows somebody who has died for our freedom, or has a relative who has died for our freedom. So I'm with you. I'm with you on making it a fair system. It took a long time to get to where we are. And as I said earlier, it's not one party's fault. Over a long period of time, I know you didn't. But here, I'm just telling you where we are. I've been in for 7 months. I'm trying to change the biggest ship in the world on a dime. It is a tough thing to do, but I'm not going to stop trying. So one of the things that we did try to do in the, quote, big deal on this debt ceiling issue, which the President and Speaker Boehner were trying to address, was exactly what you were talking about, tax reform. And I think they were pretty close. They were pretty close. They couldn't get it done. You're going to see it come out of the Ways and Means Committee, hopefully this fall, a tax package that does exactly what you ask. It makes the system a lot fairer, takes out loopholes, so we're not treating a corporation differently than we're treating somebody who lives on Main Street. And in terms of addressing your question or component about the backs on the middle class, this country was built on the middle class. I want to see every person in this country to have the opportunity to exceed the lifestyle that their parents gave them. I want to see a better America for my kids than my parents gave me. And I got to tell you, I don't see that for any American right now. Not just the middle class, any American. And that is, I think, what's at stake. But the way to do this is not for people in Washington to be pointing fingers at each other, which is what's been happening. The way for us to do it is to sit down around a table and try to get it done. Now, one of the things I do is I don't just hang around and pal around with the Republicans. I go every time I'm on the floor of the House and go introduce myself to a Democrat and try to get to know them and try to establish rapport. And believe it or not, I couldn't believe this, but I've already co-sponsored legislation with the gentleman that Ray Resort mentioned, Barney Frank. I never thought I would do that in a million years.
Don't tell us about it.
But I do want to tell you about it. We have a fishing industry in New England, in New Hampshire, that is under attack. I represent part of New Hampshire that's on the water, so does Barney Frank. We got together, and we tried to preserve and protect middle-class jobs from an administration decision that are restricting dollars that these guys can make. Now, if Barney Frank and I can sit down and come to a common sense agreement on how we can try to preserve jobs in a tough New England industry, I think the entire Congress can do it. Now, I'm listening to what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And I want to make sure that your kids and your grandkids have a better opportunity.
Can I
They
make
have a
a
better,
comment and
absolutely,
challenge?
absolutely.
My comment, I saw you going through with the debates when you were running for office. A comment that to this day horrifies me. You stated that you had gone through college on your own, no tax money, and you were promoting that we eliminate federal funding for our college students.
No, I was not.
Okay, well,
I know exactly, you're talking about the NPR debate, and Carol Shea Porter asked me if I ever went to college on a federal loan, and the answer was no. I went to Assumption College, I did not go on a federal loan.
Okay.
Where I did get a federal loan was to go to Franklin Pierce Law Center to get my law degree, which I'm paying back.
Okay, but you were promoting that we take
No,
away
actually, no, I wasn't.
I heard the debate.
I never promoted taking away that fund. As a matter of fact, in this legislation, we preserve Pell Grants at 100%. In this legislation that we passed, 100%.
I just want to make sure, I don't have a lot of money. I'm a retired, I'm a disabled person. My son is a pretty much straight A student, National Honor Society and so on. If my kid doesn't get funding to go to college, my son won't be in college. Okay, I want to make that one statement perfectly clear.
Sure.
And if that be the case, if I'm wrong, okay, I'm wrong. I don't believe that I am. But I do believe that you are separating the people that have made out well in their lives as compared to the people that aren't as fortunate as you and your family.
Well, I can tell you, in this piece of legislation that most people are frustrated at, on both sides of the aisle, We fully fund Pell Grants, exactly what you're talking about, so your kids and other kids have that opportunity. And that is important in this country, and I'll tell you why. Because we are no longer just competing in the 1930s in a local economy. We are competing in a global economy. We've got to get serious in this country about competing with India and China. We've got to get extremely serious about it. There's no question about it. And I was the first in my family to go to college, and you know what? I'm proud of that fact. And I was the first one to get my advanced degree. But I was the first. My parents didn't go to college. They worked almost every day for 40 years in a small business to allow me to have that opportunity. And I'm grateful for it. And you know what? That allowed me the opportunity to give back to my city and my state and my country. And I love that opportunity. And I want to see everyone have that opportunity.
On the deficit, it cannot be vastly.
I'm sorry, sir, we have a lot of questions we'd like to get through. Time is running very, very short, unfortunately. We want to try to get through as many questions as possible. So just a reminder to everybody in the room, if you can try to be as concise as possible, and we'll try to get through as many as we can, okay? Thanks, everyone.